Parents, you try to steer your kids from cigarettes, but the tricky ways that nicotine reaches kids can make your efforts feel like they're going up in smoke. As students head back to school, advocates are warning that clever marketing continues to pose a serious threat to kids' health. Our next guest is here to share how parents and educators can empower kids to get ahead of the nicotine problem. Let's welcome Brian King, Executive VP for U.S. Programs from the Campaign for Tobacco-Free Kids. Good to have you, Brian.
Happy to be here.
Yes. So, Brian, as kids head back to school, it's top of mind for a lot of people right now, a lot of parents. What would you say are the biggest concerns when it comes to e-cigarettes and nicotine pouches that we need to be on the lookout for?
Well, we know that the common ingredient in these products is nicotine, and nicotine is a highly addictive drug. It can also harm the developing adolescent brain, which continues to develop until about age 25, and it can also prime the brain for addiction to other drugs. And in addition to the risks on addiction and dependence, there's also growing science that high levels of nicotine exposure can also have harmful effects on the cardiovascular system as well.
Yes, and there's also a huge marketing connection to this as well, too, because many of us remember Joe Camel, the cartoon character, once used to market cigarettes. So what should parents know about how today's kids may be exposed to nicotine products?
It's a different chapter of the same book. In many cases, we've seen the industry evolve as methods of communication has evolved. And so we're seeing advertising for tobacco products, including emerging products like e-cigarettes and nicotine pouches, and social media and gaming systems. And in many cases, we're also seeing a back to the basics. And a great example is Formula One racing, which for years prohibited advertising for cigarettes, but more recently has now allowed advertising of nicotine pouches, including on the side of racing cars. And of course, this is a concern because they have a strong youth audience and continue to coordinate with Lego and Disney and other youth-focused brands. So all the more reason for us to be concerned about the way these products are advertised, and given that we know that influences youth initiation of these products.
And with that increase in advertising and just being more transparent, has the Food and Drug Administration made any recent steps around this issue?
Well, what we're seeing over the past couple months is actually the FDA is having more appetite to put tobacco products on the market, particularly in youth-appealing flavors. Within the past couple months, the agency has authorized for sale the first fruit-flavored e-cigarette, and we know that fruit is the most commonly used flavor among kids who are using these products. At the same time, we've also seen the agency issue guidance that shows it has less appetite to remove illegal products from the market. And so this shift in the marketplace, particularly at the federal regulatory level, is all the more reason why it's important for parents as well as educators to be mindful of this issue as kids go back to school and make sure they do their part to prevent kids from using these products.
And what would you say, what are the red flags that a child is at risk for nicotine addiction, and what can parents do to help if it does come to that point?
So the telltale sign is looking for signs and symptoms of nicotine dependence and addiction. And so that's things like changes in mood and behavior, changes in appetite, changes in sleep patterns. All of these are telltale signs and a key message that parents should work to get the youth in their life to a healthcare provider, such as a pediatrician, to make sure that they do get help. Of course, nicotine is a highly addictive psychoactive drug, and so it warrants healthcare provider intervention to make sure that they can quit for good.
Yeah, I can imagine it's a little bit harder to detect because the regular smell of nicotine, you smell that, but then as you mentioned, there's some e-cigs that are fruit flavored, so kind of harder to distinct that. And at the big picture level, what can families, schools, or even policymakers do to take this on?
Well, everybody serves a role. And so from the policymaker lens, there's efforts at the federal level as well as state and local level to make these products less acceptable and accessible to kids. But it takes a village, and parents and educators also serve a role. And in that regard, it's important that they stay informed, stay engaged, and act as needed. They've got to stay informed about the latest products out there that continue to evolve. It's important that they stay engaged with youth to talk about the risks of these products in a non-confrontational manner. And then importantly, if they do identify a youth who's using these products, it's important that they act on that and make sure that they connect the youth with a healthcare provider who can help them quit.
Yeah, all helpful tips, Brian. Thank you so much for joining us, making sure parents know everything they need to know before their kids head back to school. And to our viewers, I'm going to let them know where they can go for more information. Empower today's kids against nicotine. You can find out more by heading to tobaccofreekids.org.